Hi everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Acosta, and today I'll be discussing offshore wind energy and its impact on marine ecosystems. What is offshore wind energy? Offshore wind energy is a type of renewable energy that uses the strong winds blowing over oceans and large bodies of water to generate electricity. Wind turbines are installed at sea, either on fixed foundations or floating platforms, and convert wind power into clean, sustainable energy that can power homes, businesses, and communities. In this presentation, we'll take a closer look at both the positive and negative impacts of offshore wind energy on marine ecosystems. We'll also explore some of the strategies that can be used to mitigate the environmental impact and make this energy source more ocean friendly. But before we dive into those impacts, it's important to understand how offshore wind energy works and why it plays such a key role in the shift toward cleaner, more sustainable energy. How does offshore wind energy work? Offshore wind energy works similar to land-based wind energy. The dynamics are the same. The only key difference between offshore wind turbines and land-based wind turbines is that offshore wind turbines have larger blades. So wind turbines capture the motion of the wind using large blades, which turn as the wind blows. The spinning motion spins a generator that is located in the head of the wind turbine, also known as the nacelle, which turns the wind's kinetic energy into electricity. There are also different types of offshore wind turbines, such as fixed bottom and floating. Over 99% of offshore wind turbines are fixed bottom, meaning the base of the turbine is anchored directly to the seafloor. The image displayed here is an example of a floating offshore wind farm. Their support structures are buoyant, allowing them to float on water, and are secured to the seafloor using long cable lines. The top 3 countries that are using offshore wind turbines to generate electricity are China, the United Kingdom, and Germany. Offshore wind energy is rapidly expanding, and its share in the energy market is expected to see massive growth in the decades to come. According to Yuan et al. 2023, installed capacity of offshore wind power is projected to increase from 34 gigawatts in 2020 to 380 gigawatts by 2030 and could exceed 2,000 gigawatts by 2050. Offshore wind energy also has its benefits. One of those benefits include clean and renewable energy, which leads to less air pollution and lower carbon dioxide emissions. Wind energy is considered one of the most dependable and efficient renewable sources, growing at a yearly rate of 25 to 30%. It also plays a major role in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. According to Din and McCoggett 2018, it can reduce carbon dioxide by 0.5 gigatons in 2020 and 3.0 gigatons by 2050. Offshore and land wind energy produces the lowest carbon dioxide emissions compared to other renewable energy sources, which helps in combating climate change. Another benefit of offshore wind energy is the creation of jobs. For example, in 2017, the UK offshore wind industry was expected to grow from around 30,000 in 2017 to about 58,000 by 2032. So now that we have a better understanding of what offshore wind energy is, let's take a look at some of the positive ways it can impact marine ecosystems. One major benefit is the creation of artificial reefs. When wind turbines are installed on the seafloor, their foundations and support structures provide hard surfaces. Over time, these hard surfaces become gathering points for a variety of marine life, as demonstrated by the image below. Fish, mussels, barnacles, corals, and even marine mammals are attracted to these new structures, much like they would natural reefs. These artificial reefs offer shelter, feeding grounds, and breeding areas, which can lead to greater biodiversity in the area. By creating new habitats, offshore wind farms could support the growth of local fish populations and help strengthen the overall food web in the surrounding marine environment. Offshore wind farms can also act as marine protected zones. Offshore wind farms can serve as unofficial marine protected areas, helping to boost diversity and possibly support nearby commercial fisheries. Another positive impact is lowering ocean acidification. The oceans are like a large carbon sink, and they absorb 31% of the carbon dioxide emissions in the atmosphere. As carbon dioxide levels increase in the air, it also increases in the ocean. According to the National Center of Environmental Information 2024, when the ocean absorbs carbon dioxide, chemical reactions trigger, causing the water to become more acidic. This is known as ocean acidification. Ocean acidification can weaken the minerals that sea creatures like oysters, clams, shrimp, and corals need to form shells and skeletons. This is also from the National Center for Environmental Information 2024. Offshore wind energy indirectly lowers ocean acidification by reducing the amount of carbon dioxide emissions in the atmosphere. While offshore wind energy has its positive impacts, it also has its negative impacts on marine ecosystems. One of those negative impacts is noise pollution. The underwater noise created from offshore wind turbines can harm marine mammals such as seals, dolphins, and whales. These marine mammals rely heavily on their sense of hearing to locate prey, for navigation and communication. Loud noises from construction, operation, or decommission of wind turbines can interfere with their hearing, causing changes in their behavior and causing them to move away from their habitat. This information is from Caudelis et al. 2016. The noise pollution also makes it difficult for marine mammals to understand their environment. They can become disoriented from the loud noises. Another negative impact is the alteration of marine habitats. The construction of offshore wind farms can change the seafloor and affect the benthic organisms that live there. This happens during the installation and burial of electric cables, mooring lines, and platforms, which disturb the seabed and habitats of benthic organisms. To provide more information about what mooring lines are the ropes or chains that anchor wind turbine platforms to the seabed. Catenary lines are just another type of mooring line. They form a curved shape like this, and they rely on gravity to make this shape. Traditional mooring lines, such as catenary lines, constantly stay in contact with the sea floor and move across it as the floating platforms shift with the wind and waves. This is from Warzenkowski et al. 2025. This causes damage to the habitats and resuspension of sediment. There's also concern of whales colliding with wind turbine structures and getting tangled up in mooring lines. An additional negative impact is electromagnetic field effects, also known as EMFs, caused by power cables. Offshore wind farm power cables can give off electromagnetic field effects, which might interfere with how fish and other marine animals navigate, detect predators, communicate, or even find mates. Additionally, EMFs can cause behavioral changes in fish, such as changes in navigation, migration, or homing behaviors. This information is provided by Clark et al. 2024. For example, one study found that skates are similar to rays, showed an increase in exploring and foraging behavior when exposed to EMFs. This information is provided by Clark et al. 2024. This diagram shows offshore wind turbines during operation and construction. The red arrows show an increase and the blue arrows show a decrease in a specific factor. On the left, during construction, there is an increase in noise pollution and disturbance, as well as a decrease in sediment. On the right, during operation, there is also an increase in noise and disturbance, as well as an increase in electromagnetic fields. Now, if you recall, marine mammals heavily rely on their sense of hearing to locate prey, for navigation and communication. And marine mammals that are confused from loud noises generated by wind turbines may have an increased risk of colliding with offshore wind turbine structures. This information is provided by Clark et al., 2024. How can we mitigate these negative impacts? One way is being more mindful of site selection and avoiding marine protected areas. Before constructing an offshore wind farm, developers can conduct a comprehensive environmental impact assessment. These assessments should look at things like marine life through aerial and underwater surveys, habitat locations, and migration paths. Developers should also consider how several wind farms in one area could have a combined impact. Taking these steps helps make sure that turbines are placed in areas that can reduce harm to marine ecosystems and avoid key habitats and migration routes. This information is provided by Wind Exchange and .d. Another way we can reduce the negative impacts is by reducing noise pollution. So using noise abatement technology such as hydro sound dampeners, which are used to reduce noise from pile driving, and bubble curtains, can lower the noise created during wind turbine installation. The image on the left shows a bubble curtain. Bubble curtains work by air being pumped into hoses and bubbles coming through. The bubbles create a curtain that buffers out noise. Bubble curtains can reduce noise up to 18 decibels. This is especially helpful to marine mammals that rely on their sense of hearing. Another way to reduce noise pollution is by construction work like pile driving, which involves steel pipes being hammered into the steel floor to support offshore wind turbines, can be temporarily stopped if marine animals are spotted in the area. This information is provided by Wind Exchange and .d. Additionally, measuring and checking sound levels during both the construction and operation of a wind farm can help developers understand how much noise is being produced. This information is provided by NOAA Fisheries and .d. Another way we can mitigate the negative impacts is shielding and burying cables to reduce EMF effects on marine animals. So most offshore wind cables are buried about 3 to 6 feet deep. Burying the cables deeper, closer to 6 feet, can lower the strength of the magnetic field near the sea floor by about 4 times. In conclusion, offshore wind energy has both positive and negative impacts on marine ecosystems. Positive impacts being the creation of artificial reefs, acting as marine protected zones, and helping lower ocean acidification. The negative impacts are noise pollution, the alteration of marine habitats, and the production of EMFs from power cables. After careful planning and being mindful of site selection, we can mitigate the negative impacts, as well as implementing noise abatement technology and burying power cables to about 6 feet deep. In the end, it's about finding the right balance, pushing forward with clean energy solutions like offshore wind while not harming the ocean in the process. We need to tackle climate change, but we also have to protect marine life and the ecosystems that depend on the oceans. These are my references in order of appearance. These are just more of my references. And this is the final reference slide. Thank you so much for watching and taking the time to listen to my presentation. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.